A young African mother and her son land at JFK, seeking a new life, but hidden inside the boy's beloved teddy bear is a device planted by a ruthless trafficking ring. When AK-9 suddenly alerts to the toy, a desperate race begins across the airport to save the child from vanishing forever. What happened next will leave you breathless. If stories of courage and resilience inspire you, like this video and subscribe. More powerful, true-to-life moments await. What would you have done in her place? The late afternoon light slanted sharply through the massive windows of Terminal 4 at JFK International Airport, casting long shadows across the glossy floor. The arrivals hall buzzed with the familiar hum of weary travelers, rolling suitcases and fragmented announcements echoing from distant loudspeakers. Among the crowd, a young African woman stood still as the stream of passengers flowed around her like a river around a rock. Aisha Diop gripped her son's small hand tightly in hers, her knuckles white with the pressure. Her eyes, dark and rimmed with exhaustion from the 20-hour journey, darted anxiously between the towering signs in English she could barely read and the endless flow of people. She glanced down at her boy. Samir, barely 6 years old, was clutching a small, well-worn teddy bear to his chest. The bear's once bright fur had dulled to a muted gray, one ear stitched clumsily with red thread. His eyes shone with both curiosity and fatigue, his tiny fingers absent-mindedly stroking the bear's matted belly. "Mama," he whispered in their native Wolof, "are we safe now?" Aisha forced a smile she didn't feel. "Yes, my heart. We are safe here," she replied softly, though her voice trembled. The words were more for herself than for him. They had left behind everything: Dakar, the suffocating fear, the long nights of listening for footsteps outside their door. Now, in this foreign land, safety was a fragile hope she clung to with every breath. Her sister Mariama had promised that life in America would be better, that here no one would be watching them, no one would come to take Samir. Aisha adjusted the thin scarf around her head and tugged her small suitcase behind her as they moved toward the customs area. The line crawled forward, her heart pounding louder with each step. Will they question her? Will they find some reason to send her back? When it was finally their turn, the officer barely glanced at her documents, waving her through with a perfunctory stamp. Relief washed over her in a dizzying wave. She wanted to sink to the floor and weep. But there was no time for that now. "Come, Samir," she said, her voice firmer. "We must find Aunt Mariama." Across the hall, a German shepherd sat alert beside an NYPD K-9 handler. Rex had been trained to pick up subtle cues: explosives, narcotics, electronic devices. His deep brown eyes scanned the crowd with calm intensity. His handler, Officer James Walker, yawned and sipped his coffee. It had been a long shift. Another hour, and he could finally clock out. Rex's ears suddenly twitched. The dog straightened, his gaze snapping to a point just ahead, a young boy holding a teddy bear, walking beside a woman with guarded eyes and a tense posture. Without warning, Rex let out a low growl and lunged forward against his leash. Walker nearly spilled his coffee. "Rex, heel," he commanded sharply, gripping the leash tighter. The dog whined, straining with surprising urgency toward the boy. Walker frowned. Rex was not prone to false alarms. His instincts were razor-sharp, honed over years of training. He followed the dog's gaze and noticed the teddy bear clutched tightly in the child's arms. A standard children's toy, at first glance, nothing unusual. But Rex's behavior told a different story. "Excuse me, ma'am," Walker called out as he approached, professional but cautious. Aisha froze, her pulse skyrocketing. She drew Samir close. I don't understand," she stammered in heavily accented English. Walker knelt to Rex's level, calming him slightly. "It's okay. I just need to check something, all right?" He gestured toward the bear. "Can I see that toy, please?" Samir buried his face in Aisha's side, gripping the bear tighter. "Please," Walker added, softening his tone. "It's for your safety." Aisha hesitated, torn between instinct to protect her son and the authority of the uniformed man before her. Slowly, she pried the bear from Samir's grasp. The boy whimpered but obeyed. Walker examined the toy with trained eyes. At first glance, nothing seemed out of place. But as he pressed along the seams, he felt an unnatural rigidity beneath the stuffing. His jaw tightened. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "I need you and your son to come with me for a moment. It's just a routine check." Aisha's knees nearly gave way. She fought to stay upright. We have done nothing wrong," she whispered. Walker's gaze softened, but his voice was firm. "I believe you, but something isn't right here." Rex barked again, louder this time, drawing the attention of nearby passengers and another officer. Walker signaled his partner. "We need a secondary inspection. Now." As the officer led Aisha and Samir toward a quieter area, the crowd parted, curious eyes following their passage. Aisha's mind raced. Had someone put something in the bear? Was this why they had been watching her back home? Her stomach twisted with dread. She clutched Samir's small hand tighter. "It will be okay," she whispered, though her words rang hollow. In a nearby surveillance room, a technician zoomed in on the footage of the mother and child. Another figure watched from a remote feed, eyes cold, lips curled into a thin smile. The device was in play. Now it was time to see if the rest of the plan would unfold. Aisha followed the officers with trembling legs, her hand locked tightly around Samir's. The boy clung to her side, eyes wide and uncertain. The hallway they led her through was stark and cold, a sharp contrast to the bustling warmth of the arrivals terminal they had just left. Rex trotted beside Officer Walker, his body taut with focus, every movement sharp with intent. He wasn't just reacting, he was fixated. Aisha glanced nervously at the dog, her mind racing. Surely there had been a mistake. It was just Samir's bear, a gift from her sister back home. A beloved toy, nothing more. The idea that it might hold something dangerous was unthinkable. But the certainty in the officer's eyes chilled her. They entered a small room with sterile white walls and a steel table bolted to the floor. Aisha and Samir were guided to one side, while Walker placed the teddy bear carefully at the center of the table. Rex circled, low growls vibrating from deep within his chest. "Stay here," Walker instructed gently, then motioned for his partner, Officer Ruiz, to assist. "Standard protocol," Ruiz murmured, though Aisha barely registered the words. Her heart hammered wildly as she pulled Samir close. The boy whimpered softly, sensing her fear. "Mama, what's happening?" he whispered in Wolof. "Show my love. Everything is fine," she lied, her voice breaking. Walker snapped on a pair of gloves and began a methodical inspection of the bear. At first, it appeared as expected, soft, worn fabric, loose stitching along one ear. But as he pressed along the belly's seam, Rex erupted. The dog lunged forward, front paws slamming onto the table, claws scraping against the metal. He barked with furious urgency, hackles raised, eyes locked on the bear. "Rex, hail!" Walker commanded, pulling him back, though it took effort. The dog resisted, every muscle straining toward the toy. Aisha gasped, wrapping her arms protectively around Samir. "Please," she pleaded in halting English, her voice edged with desperation. "It is just his toy. He has had it for years. No bad thing." Walker met her gaze, voice calm but firm. "Ma'am, I believe you, but we have to be sure." He turned to Ruiz. "We need the scanner." Within moments, Ruiz returned with a handheld electronic scanner designed to detect non-organic materials. He passed it over the bear's surface once, then again. The device emitted a sharp beep near the midsection. Walker's expression hardened. "We got something." Aisha's knees nearly buckled. She gripped the edge of the table to steady herself. No, it is not possible. "I understand this is frightening," Walker said, his tone softer now. "But I need your permission to open the toy. It's important we do this properly." Aisha hesitated, torn between instinct and reason. Samir was crying now, small hands covering his ears against the dog's barks. Finally, with tears welling in her eyes, Aisha nodded. "Yes, please. Just make it stop." Walker retrieved a small pair of surgical scissors from a nearby drawer. He worked with precision, slicing carefully along the inner seam of the bear's belly. As he peeled back the fabric and layers of stuffing, something caught the light, thin wires, and a small metallic component embedded deep within. Walker exchanged a grim look with Ruiz. "There it is," he muttered. Using tweezers, he extracted a compact circuit board no larger than a coin. It was wrapped in a thin layer of clear plastic and connected to a tiny battery and micro antenna. "GPS tracker," Ruiz confirmed grimly. "And possibly a listening device, too." Aisha stared in horror, her world tilting. No, I do not know this. I swear, it was a gift for Samir from my sister." Her voice cracked with anguish. "I would never." Walker believed her. His instincts told him this woman was no criminal. But someone had used her, placed this device where it would be least suspected. And now, whoever was watching them knew she had arrived. He spoke gently but firmly. "Ma'am, I believe you. But this is serious. We need to ask you some questions and ensure you and your son are safe." Tears streamed down Aisha's cheeks. "Safe? You say safe, but this is not safe." She pulled Samir closer, her body trembling. Walker softened. "I understand. Please trust me. We'll do everything we can to protect you both." Rex, now sitting obediently but still tense, kept his gaze locked on the table. The device had changed everything. What had begun as a simple arrival now hinted at something far darker. Walker's mind raced. Who had planted the device? And why? Was it random or targeted? And if targeted, by whom? He motioned to Ruiz. "Get tech to analyze this ASAP and notify TSA intelligence. Someone out there is watching this family. We need to find out who." Ruiz nodded and stepped out to make the calls. Walker turned back to Aisha. "Please sit. I need to know who gave you this toy, exactly when and how." Aisha, shaking, struggled to gather her thoughts. "My sister, Mariama. She gave it before we leave Dakar. She say Samir loved this bear when he was small. I do not think." She broke off, voice choking with guilt and fear. "I'm not a bad person. I just want a safe place for my son." Walker nodded. "I know, but someone used that gift to track you." Across the airport, unseen by those in the small room, a man in a dark hoodie adjusted the earpiece in his ear. His phone buzzed. A signal from the tracker had been lost. He frowned, eyes narrowing. Time to adapt. Aisha sat rigid in the hard plastic chair, her arms wrapped protectively around Samir, who clung to her with tear-streaked cheeks pressed into her shoulder. The cold room felt suffocating now, every fluorescent flicker overhead deepening her growing sense of dread. Officer Walker paced slowly in front of her, his gaze steady but no longer casual. In his gloved hand, he held a sealed evidence bag containing the tiny circuit board they had retrieved from the stuffed bear. Through the clear plastic, the metallic glint of the device seemed to pulse ominously, a quiet threat now exposed. Walker cleared his throat. "Ma'am," he began carefully, "I need to go over this again. I know this is difficult. Please tell me exactly who gave your son this bear and when." Aisha's lips trembled as she forced herself to speak. "It was my sister, Mariama. She gave it to Samir before we leave Dakar. Just before the airport," she said, her accent thickening under stress. She said, "Take this, he loves it so much. He always wanted it for sleep. It was not new. Samir used to have it when he was small. I thought it was just love, memory." Her voice broke. "I swear I did not know." Walker crouched slightly to meet her gaze. "And your sister, how did she get the bear back?" Aisha wiped at her eyes. "I do not know. We leave it when we moved house months ago. I think it lost. But then, she gave it to me again." Walker's jaw tightened. "And your sister, has she been in contact with anyone unusual recently? Any new friends? Business partners?" Aisha shook her head. "No, she works a small job. She is not in this." But even as she spoke, doubt flickered across her face. Could Mariama have been coerced? Manipulated? Fear twisted in her gut. Meanwhile, across the hallway, Ruiz entered the airport's secure tech lab, carrying the sealed evidence bag. "We need this analyzed fast," he instructed the lead technician, a sharp-eyed woman named Collins. "We've got a GPS tracker and possibly a bug embedded in a child's toy. High priority." Collins nodded briskly. "On it." Within minutes, the device was dismantled under a sterile hood. Collins's fingers flew across the keyboard as the diagnostic scan ran. The display lit up with streams of data. "This isn't your standard consumer GPS," she remarked, frowning. "Military-grade frequency hopping, designed to avoid detection." Ruiz leaned in. "That bad?" "Worse," Collins replied. "And here's the kicker. Look at this." She pointed to a tiny, embedded microphone linked to a storage chip. It's got a live audio feed capability and local recording buffer. Whoever planted this wasn't just tracking them. They were listening to Ruiz exhaled sharply. Who the hell would go this far? Collins clicked through the metadata logs. There's more. This device pinged a satellite relay used in known human trafficking operations. We've seen similar tech in cases from Eastern Europe and West Africa. This is organized. Ruiz's stomach churned. He keyed his radio. "Walker, it's Ruiz. We got confirmation. It's a combined GPS tracker and surveillance bug. Matches devices used in transnational human trafficking networks. This family is a target." In the interview room, Walker absorbed the news with grim understanding. He crouched again beside Aisha, voice low. "Ma'am, we have confirmed this device is not ordinary. It was designed by professionals, part of a known trafficking network. Someone was tracking you, listening to you. This is very serious." Aisha's hands flew to her mouth. No, please, why?" Her mind reeled. Memories flashed. The strange men who had started lingering near their old neighborhood. The odd calls to Mariama's phone. The sudden push to send Aisha and Samir to America, as if urgency had gripped her sister. Had Mariama been threatened? Forced to plant this device? Her thoughts spiraled. "I do not know these people," she whispered, her body trembling. "I do not." Walker softened his tone. "I believe you, but someone does. We need to find out who. And right now, your safety is our priority." He tapped his radio again. "Ruiz, prep for emergency relocation. I want this family moved to secure holding until we identify the players involved." Across the airport, the man in the hoodie watched the stream of data on his laptop go dark. The last ping from the Bear's GPS had terminated abruptly. His contact would not be pleased. He typed a quick message on an encrypted app. "Asset compromised. Mother and child in secure zone. Advise." Moments later, a reply flashed. "Proceed to secondary extraction plan. Target still viable." The man closed the laptop and casually stood, eyes scanning the terminal. This wasn't over. Meanwhile, back in the secure room, Collins sent the final report to Walker's tablet. The device's serial signature had matched components used in at least 3 major trafficking cases spanning West Africa to Europe to the United States. A well-organized syndicate known for exploiting vulnerable migrant families. Walker reviewed the intel, his brow furrowing deeper. This wasn't random. Someone had orchestrated this with chilling precision. He turned to Aisha again. "Ma'am, is there anyone at all, who insisted you come to America right now? Who paid for your tickets? Who arranged your travel?" Aisha's eyes widened. It was Mariama's friend. A man. She said he helped. He paid tickets. I did not know him. She trusted him. Her voice cracked. But I did not meet him. Walker exchanged a look with Ruiz, who had just returned. "There it is," Ruiz said grimly. "Classic pattern. They lure families with promises of help, plant trackers, and intercept them at transit points." Walker nodded. He leaned toward Aisha, voice firm but kind. "We're going to help you. But you must tell us everything you can remember about this man. Every detail matters now." Aisha's breath came in ragged bursts. I will try," she whispered. But deep inside, a new terror bloomed. Had they already come for them? Were they watching still? In the corridor beyond, Rex remained alert, ears flicking. Something in the air still wasn't right. Officer Walker reviewed the latest update on his tablet, his brow furrowed with a grim sense of urgency. Collins had forwarded a cross-reference hit from Interpol's database. Aisha Diop's name had surfaced on an internal watch list compiled during a multi-agency investigation into a West African human trafficking syndicate known as Les Ombres. Though no direct evidence had ever tied Aisha to the group, Several background flags have been raised months prior when authorities intercepted encrypted communications mentioning a mother and child slated for transit through European and American routes. The file indicated a high likelihood that Aisha and her son had been marked as future victims, not accomplices. The syndicate's typical tactic involved grooming or coercing family members, often through seemingly benevolent intermediaries, to relocate vulnerable targets abroad under the guise of legitimate migration aid. Once relocated, the families would be intercepted, separated, and forced into trafficking networks. "Son of a bitch," Walker muttered under his breath, scrolling through the file. Ruiz leaned over his shoulder. "So she's been in their sights longer than she knew." "Yeah," Walker confirmed grimly. "They've probably been watching her since she applied for asylum." That friend of her sister? Likely one of their recruiters. Meanwhile, in the secured interview room, Aisha sat pale and shaking as officers took her statement, documenting every detail she could recall about Mariama's mysterious contact. Samir, now calmer but visibly drained, dozed in her lap. The scene might have appeared peaceful to an untrained eye, but beneath the surface, danger pressed in closer by the second. Back in the tech lab, Collins dug deeper into the device's metadata, running a forensic analysis of its last transmission bursts before the GPS signal went dark. "Wait a second," she called to Ruiz through the comms channel. "I'm seeing something odd here." "Go ahead," Ruiz replied. The device didn't just transmit to an off-site server. There's a local receiver nearby, within the airport's Wi-Fi range. The pings show a handshake with an anonymous node inside this building not 20 minutes ago. Ruiz's pulse quickened. "Can you isolate it?" "Already working on it." Collins launched a location triangulation script using signal strength differentials captured in the last few data bursts. Within moments, a heat map lit up on her screen. "Got it." The receiver is moving, currently pinging from somewhere in Terminal 4's public concourse, near the Central Food Court. Whoever was monitoring them is still here. The implications hit Ruiz hard. Jesus, they're probably trying to assess whether the operation's blown. Or worse, still planning to grab them. "Ikita's Mike, Walker, we've got active surveillance. Hostile is inside the terminal, near the food court." "I repeat, inside." Walker stood abruptly, adrenaline surging. "Copy that. I want eyes on every entrance and exit. Lock down any potential extraction routes." He turned to Aisha, speaking quickly but calmly. "Ma'am, you need to listen carefully. We believe the people who planted that device are still in this airport. For your safety, we're moving you and your son now. You'll be protected, but it's vital that you follow every instruction." Aisha's eyes widened in horror. "They are here? Now?" Walker nodded gravely. "Yes, but we won't let them near you. I promise." Without further delay, Walker signaled 2 agents to assist. One gently lifted the sleeping Samir from Aisha's arms while the other covered their exit. Moving swiftly through restricted corridors, the small team transported Aisha and her son toward a secure holding area deeper within the airport complex. Meanwhile, across the terminal, the man in the hoodie adjusted his cap and scanned the bustling crowd around the food court. The sudden loss of signal from the tracker had unsettled him, but his orders were clear: observe and adapt. He discreetly tapped a text message into his burner phone. Subject and security hold. New location unknown. Standing by for extraction directive. The reply came moments later. Visual reacquisition required. Do not engage solo. Huffelsmallhut. The man exhaled slowly, masking his rising tension. The window to intercept the targets was closing fast. On the upper level, plainclothes agents had already begun to circulate, posing as travelers while scanning for any individuals matching the suspect's profile. Surveillance feeds piped directly to Collins's terminal allowed her to guide the field units in real time. "Target moving sporadically," she reported. "No direct approach yet, but they're clearly hunting." In a command post, Ruiz briefed the lead FBI liaison who had just arrived on site. "We're dealing with a Tier 1 trafficking cell. Targets are a mother and young child, likely marked for forced labor or worse. We need full surveillance lockdown on this terminal and a controlled extraction of the family to federal custody." The liaison, Agent McCall nodded. Understood. Mobilizing tactical teams now. Walker, still with Aisha, received the update. Help is on the way, he reassured her. But we need to be ready for anything. Aisha clutched his arm. My sister, does she know? We'll find out, Walker said. Right now, your focus is on keeping Samir safe. We've got you. Meanwhile, the man in the hoodie received a second encrypted message. Diversion imminent. Prepare to move. He slipped the phone back into his pocket and began casually making his way toward a service stairwell, unseen by most of the crowd, but not unnoticed by Collins's sharp eyes on the surveillance feed. Walker, be advised, she transmitted. Your hostile is on the move, heading toward utility access routes. Possible attempt to flank or escape. Updating agents now. Walker's grip tightened on his comms mic. We've got to box him in before he gets eyes on our transfer. Ruiz's voice came through next. Additional intel coming in. We just got confirmation from Interpol. The group's main US-based handler is suspected to be in play here. Alias matches the profile of your guy. Walker swore under his breath. This wasn't just a loose operative. It was someone high up the chain, someone capable of directing abductions and evading international dragnets. He looked toward Aisha and the sleeping boy, a new resolve hardening in his chest. We're not letting them disappear, he vowed. Then came Collins's final chilling update. Confirmed secondary signals. Multiple devices just activated inside the terminal. You got more hostiles inbound. In the secured holding room deep within the terminal, Aisha sat tensely, her eyes darting constantly between the door and her son. Samir had awoken disoriented, rubbing his eyes, clinging to the battered remains of his stuffed bear, which had now been reduced to a clear evidence bag sealed and sitting on the metal table nearby. Walker, aware of the imminent danger, had kept the conversation focused but brief. Aisha, we need every single detail about that man who helped with your tickets, he said gently. Aisha wrung her hands, her voice shaky. I do not know his name. Mariama only say he is friend of friend. He came once to the house, spoke to me, very polite. He give money for tickets, said it is gift from group helping mothers and children. Her voice caught. I believed him. Ruiz stepped in, concern clear on his face. We've got 4 new pings from burner phones in Terminal 4, all linked to known trafficking suspects. We've got eyes on 2, but the others are moving fast. Walker cursed under his breath. Time was slipping away. We need to get them out now. He looked over at Aisha, saw her growing panic mirrored in her trembling fingers. Aisha, I promise you, we're going to protect you and your son. A knock came at the door, sharp and urgent. An agent entered, whispering to Walker. Command wants another detailed sit-down with the mother. They're sending a federal profiler in now. She needs to stay here under guard. Walker frowned. That's going to delay our extraction window. The agent shrugged apologetically. Orders came straight from the top. Walker exhaled heavily. Fine. Ruiz, you and Davis keep an eye on the boy. Do not let him out of your sight. Understand? Ruiz Nadif. Got it. Samir, now restless and tired of the stifling room, shifted in his chair. Ruiz knelt beside him. Hey, buddy, do you want to stretch your legs for a second? There's a lounge area right next door with cartoons. Samir looked to his mother uncertainly. Aisha nodded softly. Go, but stay with the nice officer. Do not leave him. Samir nodded gravely, clutching her hand once before Ruiz led him out through the adjoining door to the secure lounge, a small area with soft chairs and a mounted television running a muted cartoon feed. The hallway beyond remained under surveillance, or so the team believed. Walker resumed, questioning Aisha, his tone patient but insistent. Think hard. Did anyone follow you before the airport? Anyone who seemed to watch you? Or your son? Aisha shook her head. I do not think so, but Mariama seemed afraid before we left. Her voice broke. I think now she was trying to protect us, but she could not say. Across the terminal, in the food court, the man in the hoodie received a new encrypted message. Diversion complete. Window open. He smiled thinly. It was time. Moments later, across the secure wing, a figure dressed in an airport maintenance uniform and wearing a high-visibility vest strolled toward the security checkpoint near the lounge area. The ID badge clipped to his vest had been cloned from a real employee that morning. His manner was calm, professional, almost bored. Surveillance feeds monitored by Collins flickered for a second as a signal spike briefly disrupted the camera nearest the lounge door. A deliberate EM pulse emitted from the intruder's belt device. For 3 critical seconds, the feed went dark. Collins frowned, rerouting the signal. "We had a glitch," she reported. "Checking now." In those 3 seconds, the uniformed man approached Ruiz, who had momentarily glanced away to answer his comms. "Tech sent me down," the man said smoothly, holding up the forged badge. "Camera in this room had an alert. I need to check the router panel." Ruiz, distracted by the incoming intel burst from Collins, nodded absently. "All clear," he muttered, eyes back on his tablet. The man turned to Samir, who looked up at him curiously. With a practiced smile, the man crouched. "Hello, little one," he said in softly accented English. "Your mama sent me to bring you back to her. Come, she is waiting." Samir hesitated. The man extended a hand. "She is safe, just in another room. We must hurry." The boy, confused and frightened, but conditioned to trust adults in authority, slowly took the man's hand. In one fluid motion, the man guided Samir out through a side service door marked staff only, swiping his clone badge to bypass the locked mechanism. By the time Ruiz looked up again, Samir and the intruder were gone. A beat passed before realization struck like a bolt of lightning. "Shit!" Ruiz bolted toward the door, slamming his fist against the locked panel. "Samir! Walker, we got a problem. Boy is missing. Repeat, missing." Intruder with badge bypassed lounge security. Walker's blood turned ice cold. "Lock down the terminal," he barked. "Seal every maintenance route. Find him." Collins's voice snapped over the comms. Reviewing the feed now, someone spoofed the camera, got a partial image. Sending it. On Walker's tablet, a frame appeared showing the back of the uniformed man leading Samir through the door, his face partially obscured but posture unmistakable. Aisha, hearing the commotion, rushed toward the door only to be intercepted by agents. "Where's my son?" she screamed, frantic. Walker seized her shoulders, eyes fierce. "We will get him back. I swear to you." Collins's voice came through again, tense. "Confirmed. Intruder used forged staff credentials. He's moving toward subterminal maintenance shafts. High probability he's heading for an unmonitored exit." The entire security team shifted into overdrive. Agents scrambled to block exits and deploy K-9 units. But in the maze of service corridors below JFK, minutes could make the difference between recovery and disappearance. The man moved quickly now, dragging Samir through narrow concrete hallways lit by flickering overhead strips. His grip was firm, but not painful, his voice low and insistent. "Stay quiet. You'll see your mama soon." Samir, wide-eyed and trembling, obeyed, tears silently spilling down his cheeks. Collins traced the badge clone to a known counterfeit used in multiple European trafficking cases. "We're dealing with a pro," she warned. "If he reaches an external egress, we could lose them into a vehicle or worse." Walker clenched his fists. Not happening. But deep inside, dread gnawed at him. The clock was ticking fast. Walker's voice cut through the command room like a blade. "We're deploying the K-9. Now." Across the hall, Rex stood alert, muscles coiled beneath his dense coat, eyes already keyed to the tension permeating the air. He had sensed it moments ago, the shift, the sudden burst of adrenaline in the humans around him. Now Walker approached, holding the evidence bag containing Samir's tattered bear and one of the boy's small jackets retrieved hastily from Aisha's belongings. Walker knelt beside Rex, eyes locked with the dog's. "Find him, boy," he murmured with quiet intensity, unzipping the bag and letting Rex inhale the layered scents. The dog's powerful nose flared as he processed the familiar traces. Samir's scent mingled with the unique fibers of the bear, laced now with faint traces of fear, sweat, and something darker, unfamiliar. Rex emitted a low, eager whine. Walker clipped the leash onto his harness. "Go," he commanded. Rex surged forward, nose low, body weaving with purpose as they exited the room. Behind them, Aisha's anguished cries echoed down the corridor, but Walker could not stop. There was no time. Collins's voice fed constantly through his earpiece. Tracking last visual. Intruder moved through maintenance shafts. Possible egress point near Hangar C access corridor. Walker acknowledged tersely. Copy. KE-9 deployed. Elsewhere in the terminal, federal agents and airport security teams scrambled to close down exit routes, their boots pounding against tile and steel. In a dim sublevel hallway, the man in the stolen uniform moved briskly, gripping Samir's small wrist. The child stumbled but kept pace, tears streaking down his cheeks. The man tapped his comm discreetly. Package secured. Moving to Phase 2. The reply came fast. Alternate extraction, point active. Proceed to private hangar, entry 17B. Flight window in 20 minutes. In the command room, Ruiz and Collins coordinated the intel feed. Suddenly a new flag appeared on the screen. Holy hell, Collins muttered. We just picked up chatter from DHS liaison. There's a flagged private jet requesting clearance from hangar 17B. Registered to a shell company linked to known trafficking cases. Passenger manifest shows only crew, no declared passengers. Ruiz's blood ran cold. They're trying to exfiltrate the kid. We got a plane warming up right now. He keyed into Walker's channel. Heads up, we have an aircraft prepping at 17B. You're hunting more than one target. Walker's grip on Rex's leash tightened. Understood. We're moving. Rex pulled him hard through the winding back corridors, nose glued to the floor, tail low in concentration. The scent was fresh, the trail hot. As they rounded a corner, Rex's head jerked upward, drawing in another deep breath. Without hesitation, he darted down a side corridor, paws scrabbling against the polished floor. Walker sprinted to keep pace. Meanwhile, Aisha, pacing frantically in the secured room, turned to Ruiz with wild eyes. What is happening? Where's my son? Ruiz knelt, voice firm but kind. We are doing everything we can. Rex is tracking him now. We have the best people on this. Aisha clasped her hands tightly, praying silently in a language older than fear. In the hangar, the traffickers moved with rehearsed efficiency. A dark SUV idled by the service gate. Inside the jet, two men prepped the cabin. No seats, just a stripped fuselage ready for cargo that would not appear on any manifest. The plan had been simple. Snatch the boy using the badge spoof. Move through maintenance corridors to bypass terminal checkpoints. Board the jet under the guise of a routine crew transfer. They hadn't counted on the device being discovered so quickly, or the dog. In the shadows near the hangar entrance, the man with Samir moved swiftly, head down. The child dragged his feet now, exhaustion and terror slowing him. The man hissed, tightening his grip. Almost done, he muttered. Back in the command room, Collins's fingers flew over the keyboard. I've got movement, she reported. Camera 14 picked up the kid entering hangar service corridor with suspect. Single adult, unknown backup. Walker's voice came sharp. Relay to field team. We're en route. Rex, now at a full run, led Walker and two backup agents down the last maintenance hallway. The air grew cooler as they neared the service gate linking to the private hangars. Rex let out a sharp bark, veering hard left toward the designated corridor. Collins patched Walker into a fresh feed. Visual confirmation, target 200 feet ahead, moving toward Hangar 17, beat external door. Walker's breath came fast. We need that door locked now. Ruiz's voice responded. On it, security override engaged. In the hangar, the man's earpiece crackled. Gate lockdown in progress. Move faster. Cursing, he yanked Samir roughly, the boy whimpering in protest. At the corridor junction, Rex barked again, nose to the floor, then head snapping upward toward a vent shaft running parallel to the main path. Damn, Walker muttered. They're using the bypass. Without hesitation, Rex lunged forward, claws scrambling for purchase. The team followed, weapons drawn. In the hangar, a klaxon blared as the external gate locked down. The man looked up sharply, options shrinking fast. He scanned for another exit as Rex's barking echoed closer, louder, more insistent. For the first time, fear flickered across the trafficker's face. He hoisted Samir bodily and began running toward the jet's side hatch. Outside, agents converged on the hangar perimeter, sirens screaming. Collins's voice crackled. Multiple targets in play. Looks like they're loading others onto that plane. We've got a full-scale trafficking op in motion. Ruiz swore. How many? Thermal scans show at least 3 more miners already on board. We need a breach now. Walker's voice was steel. We're moving in. No one gets airborne. Rex surged ahead, body a blur, tail stiff, barking furiously now as they neared the hangar threshold. Walker shouted into his mic, "Breach on my mark." Walker's voice rang out over the tactical channel, sharp and controlled. All units, prepare to breach Hangar 17B on my mark. K9 is tracking. Hostile confirmed with miner in possession, secondary miners present. Around him, the backup agents moved into formation, rifles at the ready. Rex strained at his leash, barking furiously, muscles taut with raw energy. The dog's nose had caught something new, a stronger, fresher scent cutting sharply through the sterile air of the service corridor. Walker glanced down. "Easy, boy. You've got them." Collins's voice came through his earpiece, tense. "New intel. Thermal just picked up another path. They've opened a secondary route through the operations warehouse adjacent to Hangar 17B. Possible escape attempt toward runway service tunnels." Walker cursed. "That's why he's pulling. They're trying to move through the old ops access." He signaled to Ruiz. "You take Alpha Team through the main hangar door. I'm taking Rex and Bravo Team through the ops warehouse. We cut them off at the service tunnels." Ruiz acknowledged. "Copy. Good hunting." Walker released the slack in Rex's lead. "Let's move." The team pivoted sharply, boots pounding against the concrete floor as they followed the dog's urgent path. Rex led them through a narrow side corridor, past rusted maintenance equipment and forgotten crates. The air grew colder and damper as they neared the warehouse sector, a sprawling, dimly lit space used for overflow storage and equipment servicing, connected to the older parts of the airfield infrastructure. Walker keyed his mic. "Collins, status on that warehouse lock. Override in progress. Old system, manual fail-safes in place. ETA 2 minutes. Walker gritted his teeth. 2 minutes was an eternity right now. They reached the edge of the warehouse. Metal doors slightly ajar, fresh scuff marks visible on the floor. Rex surged forward, sniffing hard, tail stiff. The dog let out a short, sharp bark. He was on point. Walker signaled his team. "Stack up. Quiet entry." The agents moved into position, weapons raised. Walker pushed the door open just enough for Rex to slip through first, nose glued to the ground. Inside, the warehouse was a maze of towering shelves and cargo pallets. Harsh industrial lighting flickered intermittently overhead, casting shifting shadows. The air smelled of grease, old rubber, and now, faintly, of adrenaline and fear. Rex's body language shifted. He had locked onto the target trail. Walker followed, sweeping his rifle across each darkened aisle. Behind him, Bravo Team fanned out silently. At the far end of the warehouse, a small utility door stood ajar. Beyond it, a grated stairwell leading downward toward the disused service tunnels that ran beneath the runway tarmac. Collins's voice crackled urgently. "Be advised, we just ID'd one of the suspects in the hangar crew. Name's Carl Brenner, ex-airport security, terminated 2 years ago for misconduct. He's got old access codes and deep knowledge of the airfield layout." Walker's stomach tightened. "Explains the badge spoof and the backdoor routes. Ai Prius. Suspected ties to trafficking ring. Charges never stuck." Walker spat a curse. "Of course." He keyed his mic again. "All units, Brenner is in play, former insider. Watch your 6. Ahead, Rex lunged toward the stairwell, barking sharply. The scent trail was hot. Without hesitation, Walker led his team down the grated stairs, the metallic clang echoing ominously in the confined space. The tunnel beyond was narrow and dim, old concrete walls lined with rusting pipes. A faint draft whispered through the space. Rex powered forward, nose to the ground, tail flicking in tight arcs. Suddenly, a distant shout echoed ahead, a man's voice, urgent and angry. Walker caught only fragments. "Move! Faster! They're coming!" He exchanged a glance with his lead agent. "We're close." They pushed on, boots splashing through shallow puddles. Ahead, the tunnel forked, one path leading toward an old emergency egress, hatch opening onto the airfield apron, the other looping back toward the private hangars. Rex veered hard left, barking wildly. Walker followed without hesitation. Collins's voice came through again, clipped and urgent. Intercepting chatter, Brenner's coordinating the extraction. They've got a ground vehicle staged near runway 4, service road. If they hit that hatch, they'll be on the field in seconds. Walker keyed his mic. Bravo team moving to intercept. Ruiz status. Engaged with secondary suspects in Hangar 17B. 2 miners secured. Hostile down. No sign of primary with boy. Likely already in your tunnel. Walker felt adrenaline surge. "We got him then." Moving. The team accelerated, pounding down the tunnel after Rex, whose barks echoed like a hunting call. Up ahead, flashlights flickered as Brenner and another man hauled a barely conscious Samir toward the egress hatch. The boy's small form sagged between them, head lolling. Brenner's face was set in a grim mask of determination. "Move it," he hissed to his partner. "We've got 60 seconds before they're on us." The other man cursed, fumbling with a key card at the hatch reader. Behind them, Rex's barking grew louder, closer. Brenner's eyes widened. "They're here. Go!" He shoved the hatch lever down as the reader clicked green. The heavy door began to swing outward onto the moonlit expanse of the service road. Outside, a black van idled, engine running. Walker and Bravo team burst from the tunnel corner just as the hatch opened fully. "Freeze!" Walker shouted, weapon trained. Rex tore forward, unleashed, a living missile of fur and muscle. Brenner spun, dragging Samir toward the threshold. The boy whimpered weakly. Rex leaped. Rex launched from the tunnel mouth with explosive force, teeth bared, eyes locked on the figure dragging Samir toward the idling van. Walker's command echoed behind him, "Go, Rex!" But the dog no longer needed orders. His entire being focused on the boy's scent, on the instinctive drive to protect. Brenner barely had time to react before Rex slammed into him, knocking the man sideways with a growl that reverberated through the steel and concrete of the loading corridor. Samir tumbled to the ground, dazed but conscious, eyes fluttering open as the commotion surrounded him. Walker sprinted in next, weapon trained. "Hands where I can see them," he shouted. The second man with Brenner, a lean figure with sharp eyes and a scar across his chin, reacted first. He lunged for Samir, grabbing the boy's arm and yanking him back toward the open hatch. Walker fired a warning shot, the bullet sparking off the hatch frame. "Freeze!" he roared. The scarred man hesitated, then shoved Samir roughly into a large rolling cargo crate nearby, slamming the lid shut with a metallic clang. He spun, reaching beneath his vest as if for a weapon, but Rex was faster. The German Shepherd launched again, jaws closing around the man's forearm with bone-crunching force. The man screamed, stumbling back. In the chaos, Brenner scrambled to his feet, blood trickling from a split lip where Rex's initial strike had caught him. His eyes darted wildly. No easy way out now. The van too far, the tunnel swarming with agents behind Walker's team. Desperation flickered across his face, then hardened into resolve. He spotted a maintenance panel to his left, its door ajar. Inside sat an old toolkit, half forgotten. Brenner lunged, grabbing a heavy wrench with trembling fingers. He knew the dog would come again. He had one chance. Walker advanced steadily, voice cold. "You're done, Brenner. On the ground. Now." But Brenner wasn't listening. His gaze locked on Rex, who had released the scarred man and now stood bristling, hackles raised, blood staining the fur around his mouth. The dog's gaze flicked toward the cargo crate, where Samir now pounded weakly from inside, muffled cries audible beneath the steel. Walker saw it too. Rex, the crate guard. Rex pivoted instantly, bounding toward the container. His claws scraped across the metal as he barked furiously, nose pressed to the gaps, catching Samir's scent. The boy's panicked sobs rose in response. Walker motioned his team forward. Cover the crate. Move. Two agents flanked the container, weapons raised, eyes scanning for threats. But Brenner had made his move. With a guttural yell, he hurled the wrench in a wide arc directly at Rex's flank. The tool struck with a sickening thud, glancing off the dog's ribs with brutal force. Rex yelped, staggering sideways, momentarily winded. The agents shouted. Walker fired, the round sparking inches from Brenner's shoulder. Down! The former security officer dropped the empty toolbox and bolted toward his secondary stairwell, blood smearing the wall as he shoved past crates and cables. Walker swore, eyes flicking between the injured dog and the fleeing suspect. Bravo team, intercept. I want him alive. The agents split, two pursuing Brenner, two remaining to secure Samir. Walker knelt beside Rex, voice tight with urgency. Easy, boy. Stay down. But Rex, ribs heaving, shook off the hit with a low growl, limping toward the crate again, nose pressed to the seam. His tail stiffened in determination. Collins's voice buzzed in Walker's ear. Secondary team engaging Brenner near stairwell 4B. Hostile armed with improvised weapon. Proceed with caution. Walker keyed his mic copy. We're securing the boy. He motioned to the nearest agent. Get that crate open. Now. The agent pried at the latches with trembling fingers. Inside, Samir huddled beneath a pile of shipping blankets, eyes wide with terror, face streaked with tears. The moment the lid lifted, he burst upward, flinging his arms around Walker's neck with a sob. Mama, he cried. Walker caught him, voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through his veins. You're safe now. We've got you. Samir clung tightly, shaking uncontrollably. Rex, still limping, pressed close, nuzzling the boy with a soft whine. The child's sobs softened as he buried his face in the dog's fur. Good boy, Walker murmured, throat tight. You did good, Rex. Around them, agents formed a protective ring. One knelt beside Rex, gently assessing the injury. Possible cracked rib, she reported. We need a vet on standby. Walker nodded grimly. We'll get him there. Meanwhile, in the stairwell, the pursuit closed in on Brenner. The man lashed out wildly with a wrench, backing toward a maintenance hatch. Ruiz's voice crackled through the comms. Hostile cornered, preparing to breach. In the operations center, Collins monitored every feed. Be advised, still picking up residual heat signatures near the hangar cargo zone. Possible secondary suspects unaccounted for. Walker's jaw tightened. It wasn't over yet. Walker barely had time to breathe. With Samir secured in his arms, he issued rapid orders to his team. Evac the boy now. Get him to safe hold with medical. The two agents flanked Walker, ready to take Samir, but the child refused to let go. His tiny arms locked around Walker's neck, his body trembling. Don't leave Rex, he sobbed. Walker pressed his cheek gently against Samir's head. He's right here. We'll bring him to. But even as he spoke, the comm in his ear crackled. Bravo 2 here. Brenner broke contact. He's moving fast toward Hangar 17, beat tarmac access. He's heading for that jet. Collins's voice followed an instant later, sharp with urgency. Confirmed. Thermal shows suspect sprinting toward jet stair ramp. Crew on board already prepping for takeoff. Walker's stomach clenched. They're still trying to get out with any remaining kids. Move. He handed Samir carefully to one of the agents. Get him out now. He turned to Rex, who stood shakily beside the open crate, sides heaving, one foreleg dragging slightly but eyes fierce. Blood matted the dog's flank where the wrench had struck, but the spark in those amber eyes hadn't dimmed. Walker knelt, fingers gently tracing Rex's ears. You're not done yet, are you, boy? Rex let out a low woof, ears flicking forward. He pushed upright with determined effort, tail stiff behind him. All right, Walker said grimly. Let's finish this. With Rex limping, but determined at his side, Walker sprinted through the service tunnel entrance back toward the hangar. Ahead, Brenner had reached the stair ramp leading up to the waiting jet. The engines hummed with rising power, The final preparations for a rushed takeoff underway. The scarred man, still nursing his bitten arm, met him at the foot of the stairs. "They're coming," he warned. Brenner swore under his breath. "Get the damn door shut. I'll hold them." He hauled himself up the narrow stairway, blood smearing the rail. Inside the aircraft, 2 more traffickers scrambled to secure loose cargo and prepare restraints. One of them grabbed the manual door lever, ready to seal the jet. Back in the tunnel, Walker and 2 agents burst into the hangar, weapons raised. Rex surged ahead despite his injury, tracking the scent with unwavering focus. The scene erupted into chaos. "Freeze!" Walker shouted, but Brenner had already vanished into the fuselage. The jet door stood half open, the lever slowly moving. Without hesitation, Rex bounded forward, his limp forgotten in the adrenaline-fueled need to protect. He hit the base of the stairway at a run, claws scrambling against the metal. Walker cursed. "Cover him." The agents laid down suppressive fire toward the hangar catwalk where another gunman had appeared, buying Rex the seconds he needed. Inside the jet, the scarred man reached to slam the door lever closed, but too late. A blur of fur and muscle shot up the narrow stairwell. Rex launched himself through the shrinking gap, jaws wide. His teeth clamped onto the back of Brenner's flight jacket, wrenching him backward with a growl of primal fury. Brenner let out a strangled yell, losing his grip on the inner handle. The door thudded ajar again. Rex dug in, his wounded body trembling but relentless, refusing to release the hold. Blood seeped from his side, but the dog's determination burned brighter than the pain. Walker reached the top of the stairwell seconds later. He saw Brenner flailing wildly, trying to dislodge the dog, panic overtaking cold calculation. "Let go!" Brenner screamed, staggering back toward the cockpit divider. Walker didn't hesitate. Federal agent. "Down!" He fired a precise shot that shattered the lever mechanism. The door now hung loose, useless. Rex, still clamped onto Brenner's jacket, twisted sharply, pulling the man to the floor. Walker vaulted inside, weapon trained. "Don't move." The scar man hesitated, then dropped his makeshift weapon and slid to his knees, hands raised. Brenner, pinned beneath the growling dog, gasped for breath. "Get him off," he wheezed. Walker advanced. "He'll let go when I say." He knelt beside Rex, voice steady. "Good boy. You've got him." He reached carefully, fingers brushing Rex's scruff. "Out," he commanded gently. Rex released his grip with visible effort, muscles trembling, tongue lolling as he panted heavily. Blood now coated his side in dark streaks. "We need a medic for the dog, now." Walker snapped into his comm. Agents swarmed into the cabin seconds later, securing the suspects and sweeping the jet. "Clear," one called. Walker exhaled, relief flooding through his veins. He knelt again beside Rex. "You did it, buddy. You saved him." Rex thumped his tail once weakly, eyes half-lidded. Collins's voice came through. "Boys safe and secure. Evac team en route." Walker allowed himself a brief, fierce smile. "Copy. We've got our dog down, but alive." 2 agents brought in a stretcher modified for K9 evac. Carefully, they lifted Rex onto the padded surface, one agent keeping pressure on the bleeding flank. The dog whimpered softly, but made no protest. Outside the hangar, paramedics rushed to meet them. Walker jogged beside the stretcher, one hand resting on Rex's shoulder. "You're going to be all right," he promised quietly. Across the airfield, Samir spotted the approaching team. He broke from the agent's arms, running toward them. "Rex," he cried. The paramedics paused just long enough for the boy to reach the stretcher. Samir buried his face in the dog's neck, tears falling freely. "You came back. You found me." Rex licked his cheek faintly, tail giving a weak wag. Walker swallowed hard. "Let's go." The team moved swiftly toward the waiting emergency vehicle. Sirens wailed in the distance as the final phase of the operation unfolded. The days that followed were a blur of reports, medical treatments, and deep investigative work. In the sterile white light of the Federal Operations Center, Collins and her team pored over the data retrieved from the GPS tracker hidden inside Samir's bear. the hacked access cards, and the encrypted communications intercepted from the traffickers' devices. What they uncovered sent ripples of unease through every level of the investigation. The tracking device had been active for over 3 months before Aisha and Samir had left the car. Satellite logs revealed multiple signal points near refugee intake centers and community outreach hubs, places where vulnerable individuals gathered in search of aid or asylum. A pattern emerged. Families flagged for potential migration, especially single mothers with young children, were quietly marked and monitored. Collins's voice was tight with controlled anger as she briefed Walker. They had a net cast over half the refugee community back there. Anyone on the move got tagged. The bear was just one method. We found evidence they were using clothing, toys, even small pieces of jewelry. Walker leaned forward, fists clenched. So, this wasn't random. Aisha was targeted the moment she showed intent to emigrate. Collins nodded grimly. And her sister Mariama was likely manipulated, threatened, or bribed to pass that bear along. We've started tracing the funding shell. It's deep, layers of offshore accounts tied to Les Ambers. Walker exhaled, the weight of the revelation settling on his shoulders. How many more? He asked quietly. Collins hesitated. Too many. This op just exposed one cell. The network's still moving. In a nearby hospital room, under soft fluorescent lights, Rex lay on a padded recovery bed. His side was bandaged and 4-line running into his front leg. A faint beeping from the monitor accompanied each slow, steady breath. Walker entered quietly, a rare softness in his gaze. "Hey, partner," he murmured, crouching beside the bed. Rex's eyes opened halfway, ears twitching faintly. A gentle wag of the tail answered. "You saved that boy," Walker whispered. "You brought him back. You brought all of us back." The next morning, a small, private ceremony was held in the precinct's K-9 unit hall. Officers, agents, and a handful of invited guests gathered in solemn respect. At the front, Rex, now alert though still recovering, sat proudly beside Walker. His bandages remained, but the fire in his eyes had returned. Captain Moreno stepped forward, voice clear. "Today, we honor bravery beyond measure." K-9 Officer Rex, through his actions and sacrifice, exposed a trafficking operation spanning continents, saved a young life, and reminded us all what loyalty and courage truly mean. She knelt, attaching a gleaming silver medal to Rex's harness. The room erupted in heartfelt applause. Among the small crowd, Aisha and Samir stood close together. The boy held a new stuffed dog, a gift from the K-9 unit. His eyes shone with joy as he watched Rex. "Mama," he whispered, "he is a hero." Aisha's voice trembled. "Yes, my love, the bravest." After the ceremony, Walker approached them. "We've secured special protection for both of you," he said. "A new life here in the States. Safe housing, support services, permanent residency fast-tracked." Aisha's eyes filled with tears. "I do not know how to thank you," she whispered. Walker smiled softly. "You already did. You fought to protect your son. We'll take it from here." As they left the hall, Samir tugged at Walker's sleeve. "Will Rex come visit us?" he asked earnestly. Walker knelt, looking the boy in the eye. "I think he'd like that very much." In the weeks that followed, headlines detailed the takedown of the trafficking ring. Multiple arrests spanned 3 countries, with deepening investigations continuing. Yet beneath the public triumph, the agents knew the fight was far from over. In a dim conference room late one evening, Collins presented her latest findings. Les Ambers as other cells. The tech we seized matches builds from 3 other known hubs. They've refined this method, targeting refugee populations worldwide. Walker's jaw tightened. "So we hit one branch. The root's still out there." Collins nodded. "But thanks to Rex and that boy, we've got new leads. We'll keep digging." Outside, in the crisp evening air, Walker took Rex for a short walk, the dog moving carefully but proudly. They paused beneath the starlit sky. Walker knelt, fingers stroking the dog's thick fur. "We did good, partner," he said softly. "But there's more to do." Rex leaned into him, letting out a low, contented sigh. Across the city, Aisha and Samir settled into their new home, a modest apartment in a safe neighborhood, far from shadows and fear. Samir kept the new stuffed dog close, but spoke often of the real one who had saved him. On the wall, framed carefully above their small couch, hung a photo from the ceremony. A smiling boy, his mother at his side, and a battered, brave German shepherd who had given everything to close a terrible loop and open a new chapter. If this story moved you, if you held your breath as Rex fought to bring Samir home, consider giving this video a like and subscribing for more true-to-life stories of courage and hope. Which moment in the story struck you the most? Was it Rex refusing to let go even when injured, or the final embrace between Samir and his hero? And where in the world are you watching from? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your voice.